Stop.
All right.
Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is American Foul Brood. If you look at the pictures, you can see one of the best ways to see from just you yourself. If you think something's wrong with your hives there, take a piece of grass, a piece of a stick, or a match, and put it in your cell and twirl it around. And if it's, when you pull it out slowly, if it's ropey, that's a good indication that it is American Foul Brood. And there's some pictures of what you might see. If you see there's scattered brood, some they just don't look right. They look all funky in their cells. Some of them are black. Said it is an infection. What?
Hey, Debbie,
Yeah.
can you put it on slideshow so we don't see the side?
I don't know because this is a
Yeah,
recording.
you can. Go up there on slideshow.
That's not
At
me.
At the very top above your B.
That's during your
Yep.
presentation last year.
And then over, well, don't do that one. Oh, well, okay.
Oh, that's you talking
'Cause
from
You
last
could
year.
say, do it from current.
Yep.
Now what are
I
you
don't know
seeing?
why. That's not what
I see Debbie from last.
Exit
doesn't-
out of there.
it doesn't
I'm
ever
gonna
work.
try, but I might lose you all.
Well, over here it says end slideshow at the top.
Well, down the bottom, it says it's got
Show
slide number
taskbar.
2 of 54.
Over, no, don't do
Just
that.
fast forward through that,
You
Debbie,
don't
because
want
it's
that in this. Yeah, there's that. Current.
Green,
you go.
it's the only one. So I'm not seeing what you're seeing is the
There.
until the larval death. New spores form after the larval death. Larval death typically occurs after cells are capped during the last 2 days of the larval stage or the first 2 days of the pupal stage. So about 8 to 12 days of the capped cell. What to look for? Brood comb that is scattered in irregular patterns, discolored look, sunken, punctured cappings. Dead larvae are light brown to dark coffee color. The larvae are dry to brittle scales that are black. Even scales contain as many as 100 million spores. Scales like fat along the lower part of the cell walls. Honeybees cannot completely remove all these scales. They're just real hard down in there. If anybody's cleaned out their frames and melted it and you got a whole big glob of little black cup looking things, that's these scales. During early stage of decay until 3 weeks after the death of the larva have a glue-like consistency. It will string out for an inch or so if you're using a toothpick. This is called the ropey stage. Death does not occur until the pupal stage. Pupal undergo a same change in consistency as the larva. Swarms may carry American Foul Brood. You will see the tongue sticking out of the remains. This is the most characteristic symptom, but it may not always be present. See his little tongue hanging out there? Proboscis, that's called. Only a few dead larvae or pupae will show at first because of the spread throughout the hive and then it's into the apiary. It is spread by the nurse bees within the hive inadvertently feeding honey contaminated with spores to larvae. The housekeeper bees aid in dispersing the spores by moving the honey. The honey is stored in brood cells that is fed to the larvae. Then they move it to the supers and now everything's contaminated. As the infection weakens the colony, it will no longer be able to defend itself. We can spread it by interchanging combs. So pay attention. And if you have any suspicion whatsoever of a frame you pull out and you're thinking you're going to give this brood over to another box, make sure it looks right. If it has any indication that it doesn't look right to you, don't use it. We can spread it by interchanging combs, by making splits, by exchanging brood and food frames, mixing combs during honey extraction, hive tools, and your gloves. So that's why Phyllis asked us to only bring new or thoroughly cleaned equipment when we come to her house to work. American foul brood is highly resistant to discontation, heat, chemicals, and disinfectants. So they have not found anything really that will kill any of the spores that's down in that box. It gets in the wood, it gets in everything. Spores live for 40 years in comb and honey. One reason not to feed honey that you've bought, because you don't know where that honey came from. Be wary of buying used equipment and bees that has not been inspected. Swarms may carry American foul brood. Plus, it is not transmitted to humans. If for any reason you think you may have it, call our state apiarist immediately. She's going to put you in quarantine. Well, ours is a she. She's going to put you in quarantine until she can get there. They say some equipment can be saved, like the bottom boards, the hive bodies, or coverings by scraping and scrubbing. Also by fire, scorching and completely immersing in boiling lye. But who has that sitting around? Terramycin can be used as a preventive measure, such as a treatment, but antibiotics do not kill the larval spores, but delay the growth. As soon as you stop using your terramycin, it will grow again. So if you was to use terramycin and use it as a preventive, you can't never quit. And what she'll do if she suspects you have American foul brood, the state apiarist will come. She will quarantine your hives, and she will start mapping out any people that's within 2 miles around you, and then she's going to make a circle at all those hives and go and test all of them until the test comes back to see if you have American foul brood. And then if you do, she's just going to have you burn them. European foul brood, it looks kind of the same, but you can see that they don't look all quite as black. And if you look at those little larvae up in the upper right one, they're not like mush. They're solid, and they'll look a little comb face. So if you pull out your frame and you look at that first frame and you see it's bullseye-eyed like, and it's just scattered, and if you can tell, that's not a normal thing just because brood has emerged, then you got to be suspicious. See how these were open. Those bees knew there was something wrong, and they're just not shaped right in there. See in that the right-hand picture where some of them are yellowing, your little larvae should be all pearly white, not have a discolored to them. American foul brood is also a bacterial brood disease. It is considered a stress disease, most prevalent in the spring or early summer when the brood is at its height. European foul brood, I don't know why that's there. Frequently begins to disappear in the nectar flow. It may reappear in your dearth, and all castes of bees are susceptible. So this one affects your bees, where American foul brood only affects your brood. There's a difference. You will see if you investigate, you show distinctive lines that are the breathing tube. It is not ropey. Very rarely is it ropey. They have a thin brownish or blackish scale. American foul brood or European foul brood usually does not kill a colony, but it can reduce population. So as all these bees die, when it turns into the bees, you just get less and less bees in your hive, and you're looking at it and going, why do I have noticeably less bees than before? You might have American or European foul brood. It kills larvae at the 2 to 4 day stage. They die before they're capped. It does not form spores. It often overwinters on the comb. It gains entry into the larvae and is contaminated brood food and multiplies rapidly within the bee's guts. Not all the larvae die. Some develop normally and avoid the germ or regurgitates the bacteria into the underside of the cappings, which becomes the source for the disease. In some cases, it can be eliminated by requeening. This gives the colony a more prolific queen, permits its time lag between the brood cycles, allowing the house bees to remove these diseased larvae from the cells. It can be treated with terramycin. Your state inspector gives you a form to file with a vet, and then that writes out a script for it. And then what I did when I had it, she wrote out a script. We contacted my veterinarian. We forwarded it over. The veterinarian wrote out a script for terramycin and sent it back to me. Then I took that script and sent it to Man Lake. And then Man Lake will send you the medicine. It's just a little powder, terramycin, and you put it on top of your frames and it clears it up. There's directions on what you have to do. And it can clear it up.
So Deb, does that ever go away by itself?
Yes, American or European foul brood will.
Okay.
It can if like as you requeen or and gives yourself a brood break, the bees will kick out all the infected ones and then the new ones will be laid and you'll be all right. Sac brood. This is a virus, not a bacteria. We usually do not have severe losses, most commonly used during the first half of the brood rearing season. It affects both workers and drones, the pupae, and may be killed, but adult bees are immune. The pupae may be killed, but the adult bees are immune. Death usually occurs after the cell is sealed and the larvae has spun its cocoon. Cappings over the dead brood are punctured and the bees later remove them. Excuse me. Change from pearly white to a dull yellow, and I need to fix that one, yellow or gray to black. And there's a picture of what you're seeing. See how the ends start turning black? And they just aren't that pretty pearly white larvae that we want to be seeing. And they get this point on them down here. That is a telltale sign. But the bees can smell or tell that there's an infection in there, and they will uncap them there like this. And then they'll throw them out. The first part is to change is the head. It becomes black. The larva dies in an upright position with its head raised. They are easily removed intact, unlike American foul brood. Contents of the larvae are watery. A tough outer skin sac that dried scales flat on the lower side of the cell with the head and the end raised and the tail flat at the bottom. Nurse bees are suspected for transmitting sac brood disease by carrying the virus from cell to cell. Robber bees are believed to carry it between the hives from contaminated honey. This disappears in the late spring when the nectar flow has started. Requeening plus strong hives are effective in combating this disease. And then we have chalk brood. Chalk brood is a fungal brood disease caused by spore-forming fungus. It affects workers, drones, and queen larvae. These mummified larvae become molted with brown or black spots on a ventricle side due to the presence of spores or cysts or fruiting bodies of fungus. I'm not sure what fruiting means. We'll have to talk to one of our biologists here in a little bit. It can be found throughout the brood rearing season, most prevalent in late spring when the brood nest is rapidly expanding. It usually disappears or at least declines in heat of the summer. Affected larvae are on the outer fringes of the brood nest where a few nurse bees are able to maintain the brood nest temperature. Brood cells are capped or not capped. They can be either one. And there's some pictures of what you'll see. They'll be pulling them out and throwing them out on the landing board, and you're going to see these little odd things, and you won't even be able to sometimes tell, is that really a bee or what? They look like little pieces of chalk. The young pupae stretch out in the cells and are removed by the nurse bees 2 or 3 days after the symptoms appear. So you will see little mummies in the front of your hive. Spores of the fungus are ingested with the larvae food. Spores germinate in the hindgut of the stage of the larvae at about 6 to 7 days old. Spores remain vigilant for years, so infected pieces of equipment and brood comb are a reservoir for further infections. Chalk brood usually doesn't destroy a hive, but it can prevent normal population buildup and surplus of honey production. So if you have a hive that's just lagging behind, you might check it, see if it's got this. Spores are easily passed from a bee to bee, so drifting and robbing bees are carrier of the disease. You can spread it by splits and sharing parts of your hives. You can spread it by feeding pollen collected from infected hives. No treatment is presently available. Requeening with a hygienic stock may help. Stone brood is a fungal disease, affects both the larvae and the pupae. It causes mummifications of the infected brood. They are hard and solid, unlike the chalk that is kind of spongy. The stone broods feel like little rocks. They are hard, solid, unlike, I just read it, chalk brood that is spongy-like. Brood infected will be covered with powdery green growth of fungal spores around the head of the brood. This disease is not considered important and is very rarely seen. There's no treatment recommended. The bees will remove the dead and normally it just goes on. If you look at that, you might look at that and first think you're seeing wax moths or something, but see how they're forming them in little hard things? Parasitic mite syndrome, PMS. This is associated with varroa mites. It has complex symptoms resembling a cross between foul brood and sac brood. Affected larvae die in the last larvae or pupal stage. They are stretched out in the cell with their heads slightly raised. In early stages, larvae are dull white instead of glistening. They look deflated. Later, they may turn to a grayish or brown spots. Pre-pupae die before the cell has been capped. Cappings may be perforated or be completely removed. It's stirred with a stick. They are not ropey, but they're globular. The most important thing to do is control your mites. This might explain why we have collapses in early fall. Nosema. This is a malady of adult bees. Adult bees ingest the nosema spores from food or water. The spores germinate and multiply within the lining of the bee's midgut. Millions of spores are shed into the digestive tract and eliminated in the feces, causing dysentery and the weakness of bees. This shortens the bee's life, and the ability to produce brood food decreases, resulting in retarding the brood production and the colony development. When queens become infected eggs, when queens become infected eggs in production, the lifespan are reduced, leading to supersedure. Infected queens usually have increased winter losses and decreased honey production. Losses in your queen in colonies newly started from packages are most serious affected by this infection. As you can see, it's just globs. But don't always jump to conclusions that you have it, because your first spring bees in the spring sometimes mess up the outside of your hives like this. And that's just because that's their first flight out since all winter. Nosema is very common, but not realized until most of the bees are infected. To identify the infection is through dissection of the adult bee's hindgut. Nosema may be present at any time. It varies among colonies and geographic regions, the time of the year, or from year to year. To overwinter colonies, to confined bees, infected combs, infected food stores, shipping cages, infected packages, splits, and equipment. The queen may become infected after it emerges from the cell or in the mating nuke. Nosema is often called the spring dwindling, where only the queen and small amount of bees are left. Bees will fly in the winter, and in marginal flight temperatures become that they are under stress. They are weak and drop to the ground and get chilled. This usually subsides by April. The brood emergence to the hive's primary natural defense is replacing infected bees with young, healthy ones. The best defense is for winter, only strong colonies with plenty of honey and young, vigorous queens. Paralysis. This is a minor disease of adult honeybees. It is associated with two viruses, your chronic bee paralysis and acute bee paralysis virus. Other causes suspected include pollen and nectar from the plants such as buttercup, rhododendron, laurel, and some species of our basswood. Defecant pollen during brood rearing in early spring, consumption of stored fermented pollen. Affected bees tremble and uncontrollably, they just tremble. You just would see them shaking and they can't fly. Like you'll see them come out and then they just plop around. They lose their hair from their body and have a gray, shiny, greasy appearance, often mistaken for robber bees. The difference is the robber bees are not submissive and sick bees are submissive. Sick bees can be found at the colony entrance, crawling up the side of the hives, blades of grass, or trembling on the ground. Healthy bees try to get sick bees away from the hive. A colony may recover after a short time, or can continue for a year or two without killing the hive. Research has shown that susceptibility to the disease is inherited, so one way to stop it is to requeen with different strains of bees. Something else you might do is add brood to strengthen this colony. Dysentery. Dysentery is a condition caused by excess water in the bee's body. Affected bees cannot hold waste products and are unable to wait for its cleansing flights in the spring or on its 50-degree days when they come out. And a void in the cells at the entrance, the interior of the hives, and the snow on the ground. So if you're thinking of your bees coming out first thing in the spring and they're just pooping everywhere, all over the snow, all over the side of the box, these bees with dysentery are doing that inside the box. Two leading causes are prolonged confinement during winter and early spring and consumptions of a food high in water. Nosema and damp hives can contribute to the problem. To help prevent dysentery, make sure hives are ventilated and stocked with high quality food. Here comes our dreaded mite. This is a varroa mite. This is the female. Okay, fact checks of varroa mite. A female mite versus a male mite. This is the first part here is the male. The male is smaller than the female. It's lighter tannish in color. It's the firstborn. From eggs to adult takes 5 to 6 days. They do not feed. Their mouth parts are modified as a sperm transfer during mating. They die after copulation. Mating occurs in the brood cell before the females emerge. They are not found outside of the cell. Our female mite, at the time of this book, females feed on hemolymph blood of the adult bees in the larval pupa. There's getting to be some different thoughts about that now. They are brown to red and they are size of a pinhead. They can live outside of the cell. You can find them on the adult drones and workers. They have a flattened shape that helps them hang onto the bees, and they slide into the cells. They live on the bee's thorax at the point where the bees attach. between the head and the thorax and the abdomen, right where the joints are. They crawl up in that crease. These areas are easy points to pierce exoskeleton and are less likely to be groomed off. At the time to lay, she moves into the brood cell containing larvae just before the cells are getting capped. She goes to the bottom of the cell and hides down there and feeds on that brood food that they've put in there. After the cells are capped, the larvae has finished spinning the cocoon. They feed on these larvae. 3 days after the cells are capped, she begins to lay. A fertilized female lays a total of 4 to 6 eggs. The first egg is a male, and then she lays females that develop within 6 to 7 days. The old female and the newly fertilized female remain the cell until the young bees emerge. So they slide in there and then they hide, and she eats. And then whatever days she takes, then her first one will be a male. Then he fertilizes all his sisters after that. So that's why there's only one male and the rest are female. More offspring can mature during the cap period of the drone cells. So that's why they like the drone cells. When we're saying check for your mite counts, pull out your drones, is because drones take longer to develop. So that gives these mites longer to make more mites. Then they choose a worker cell and a queen cell in heavy infestations. The female in summer lives 2 to 3 months, and in the winter can live 5 to 8 months. Without a host or a capped brood, they live only 5 days. There may be more than one female slip into a cell and will emerge with more than one female and offspring. These bees may look like they're okay, but usually malnutrition, blood loss, disease-ridden, shortened lifespan, restless, and they fly with difficulty. On a colony level, low infestations are hard to detect, but when you see spotty brood, malformed workers, deformed wing virus, small abdomens, small pupae and have pale or reddish spots, your hives are weakened, you're already in trouble. By the end of the brood rearing, you're in high mite infestation. Any questions about the mite? Okay, we'll go on to the honeybee tracheal mite. They infest the adult honeybees. They are internal parasitic mite. It lives in the trachea or the breathing tubes. Excuse me. Also may be found in the air sacs on the thorax, the abdomen, and the head. They pierce the breathing tube wall with the mouth and feed on hemoliths. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me. What's that? Huh? Oh. This causes a higher than normal bacterial count. Infected bees with this disease have shortened lives. It affects the flight efficiency, causes a large number of crawling bees that are unable to fly. And as mites increase, the colony population dwindles and results in death. The bees are affected during the winter confinement and early spring. Infestations are at a max in the spring when the population composed of primarily the older bees. The mites are hard to identify. The tracheal mites are hard to identify, and they're no bigger than a speck of dust. They're oval. They're between the second and third set of the legs. The whitish in color and smooth. They have long, fine hairs on their body and legs, and they have beak-like mouth parts that are piercing inside the trachea. Spends their entire life cycle within the tracheal system, except for a brief migratory period. Within 24 hours after the worker bees emerge, the female mites collect in a bee trachea where they are found, where they feed. Each female trachea mite lays 5 to 7 eggs, requires 3 to 4 days to hatch. The male and female to adult 11 to a non-feeding Contact. Only female mites do this. They emerge through the spiracles. Spiracles are the holes you'll see along the bee's body. That's where they breathe. They emerge, they attach their hairs to the bees, and they jump off and onto a new bee and enter the spiracle opening on that bee, and then when they're less than 4 days old. The only positive ID is found is the dissection with a microscope examination. That's the only way you can tell if you have somebody that can dissect it for you. Infected trachea undergo progressive deterioration, show patchy discoloration, brown blotches with scabs may appear. Many highly infected hives die in the late winter or early spring. Bees still have heavy stores and small clusters of dead bees, but hives can die out in any time of the year. Info from your state inspector is that they are rare now. Formic acid, the Apogard, and oxalic acids all seem to have a negative effect on them. Then we got the small hive beetle. Small hive beetles were identified in Florida in the spring of 1998. Before that, they were only known in Africa, thought to have come through on fruit. They're spread by packages from the south. The adult bee is small, 1/3 the size of a bee. They are reddish brown or black in color, covered with hair. Larvae are small, cream colored, and resemble young wax moths. You can tell the difference from the beetle larvae and the wax moths by their legs. Small hive beetle larvae have 3 sets of legs just behind the head. And that's what you're going to see. That one picture is where the small hive beetles are in a pollen patty. So that's why we say only feed as much pollen patty as they'll eat in just a couple days, because that's where the small hive beetle like to go. And if you open up a hive that you haven't been in, you'll see all these little worms running all around. And the way you can tell this from the wax moths is the small hive beetle makes it all glistening, like makes it look greasy. They are good flyers in that it makes it easy to go to new colonies. They lay eggs, and so it starts all over again. Small hive beetles shut down reproduction in the winter, but can live throughout the winter in bee clusters. Infestations only hurts weak hives. They attack the honey supers that are in storage. So that's why we're always trying to seal our honey supers up, because we don't want them in there, because they'll ruin your honey. Some people have ants. Ants are not usually serious, but can be a nuisance. They indicate a weakened hive. To reduce ant population, maintain strong colonies and keep bottom boards off the ground. Keep brush cleared and remove rotten wood, grass, and weeds. Many insecticides for ants are toxic to your bee, so really pay attention if you're going to spray with something. Really pay attention to what you can do. Some way I have read, that doesn't make sense, or seems, is they put your legs in pans of water, or rub the legs of your hives with Vaseline and sprinkle cinnamon. I do not know if any of those work, but that's some ways I've read. Then you have lice. Didn't know bees had lice, but they do. They are an external parasite of the adult bee. They are small, about the size of a pinhead, reddish brown in color and wingless. They come here as hitchhikers on the queens. Several can live on a queen, but only one can live on a worker. They prefer nurse bees, and rarely do they live on drones. Lice moves rapidly over the bodies and settle on the dorsal surfaces at the junction of the bee's thorax and abdomen. When hunger responses causes them to move to the bee's mouth, and they indicate or tickle, causing the bee to regurgitate a drop of nectar for them, and then they eat it. Bees actively try to remove these lice. Louse lay eggs on cappings of the honey storage cells during May through June, and the adults die. Upon hatching, your young burrow into these cappings, and after 21 days, they emerge and feed on the wax and the pollen grains. Bee lice overwinter as adults and do not appear on queens until June. Damage to the colonies is light. Amount of food eaten is little. Damage to the combs with tunnels that they make. No studies have been done to control lice since the treatment for lice is rare. Since treatments are rare. Then we have our wax moth. Larvae cause considerable damage to beeswax and is left unattended. Frames in the weak or dead colonies in storage are subject to an attack. Adults fly at night and deposit masses of eggs on the unprotected comb or cracks in your hive, and they hatch in a few days and crawl into your comb and begin feeding on a cocoon. Cast skins and pollen. They bore through your comb and leave a mass of webs and debris. Seldom is new frames or new foundation ever attacked because they don't have food in them. And there is pictures, it's not a very good one, but there's a picture of a wax moth on the top and the hive beetle on the bottom. And you can tell by where the legs are and the size. But if you're looking at them in your hive, you don't have anything to compare to. That's what you look at. This is what an adult moth looks like if you see them flying around. And this is what they look like in your frames. It's just a mass of a bunch of webs. And you can see
yeah.
tunnels. Yeah.
Will you go back to that one frame with the wax moth and the, yeah, just hang on 1 second. Okay, there you go. Let me take a picture of that.
Big ones and little ones.
Hey, Terry and everybody else, I just
Okay.
posted
Thank you.
this picture, but go to our women's page and it'll show you a clearer picture
Okay,
and an article about it.
okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome. Larval stage may last 28 days to 5 months. The length of the larvae may vary from a ½ inch to an inch in length. Larvae spin rough silken cocoons, usually attached to a frame or the inside of your hives. They cement cocoons inside a boat-shaped cavity chewed into the wood. So if you've gone and you're looking at a hive and it's been used, if you see these little divots all around the wood, that's what at one point you've had a wax moth. They overwinter through this way and emerge almost any time under warm conditions. Freezing weather kills all stages of wax moth. Pear moth is a treatment for warmer weather storage. That's winter. I got to do some editing there. So pear moth is some sprinkles that you can put when you stack your hives up, and it's supposed to deter the moths. Then we have a mouse. They are serious to be stored in your stored comb in active honey colonies in fall and winter months. They chew your comb and frames to make room for their nests. They urinate in the comb, and that makes your bees reluctant to clean their nests out. Bees usually make nests away from the cluster. So these mouse can live in your hives. They'll be back in a corner. What they usually mess is just they'll chew them out a place to live, but they urinate in there and it just really stinks. The bees kind of coexist with them, but they really don't kick them out too much. You have rodents. You have your skunk, your possum, and your raccoon. They are all insect-eating predators. They all raid at night and assume large numbers of bees. You look for scratches or muddy marks, things in disarray on the front of your hives. Trampled down grass. Skunks chew on bees until all the juices are consumed, then they spit them out. And you'll look at like little dried footballs and you'll see bee parts in that, and then that'll let you know that you've got skunk. Of course, we have bears. We live in West Virginia. They do great damage. They visit at night, will return again and again, more likely in the spring when the young adults come out of the deep winter sleep and fall after males enter hibernation. Placement of the hives is one thing you can do to help with the bear damage. not, don't put it on ridges, ravines, bed streams, forest edges near your berry patches. So don't put them where you think there's a trail that bears would use. Keep your area clean. Don't leave anything the bears might want. So don't throw junk out of your hives. Put it all in a container and take it away, because you don't want, you're just attracting them. If you see burr comb and all that stuff, don't throw it out on the ground. And of course, we can install fences. Some that went to the spring conference went to the bear guys meeting. You have other pests. They either eat or live within or around your hives. You got snakes, more rodents, spiders, flies, bugs, dragonflies, praying mantises, and birds. Pesticides is a malady that we have. They work in two ways, that they're a necessary crop production, and then the herbicides that reduces plants for the bees, that reduce attractive plants for the bees. Bees feed on the nectar and the pollen, and then they become poisoned. They fly through clouds of pesticide spray. If they're spraying big fields, they'll fly through it, and then they have it on their body. They overcome by fumigation. Some whole colonies may die, but mostly just field bees are affected, and they feed the whole colony. So if they're going out and they've got in one of these pesticide spray and they die before they go back, that colony is going to starve because the foragers aren't returning food to them. If you know they're going to spray in your area, like the electric lines, or if you got a neighbor that has a big farm, sometime you can like wet your towels or burlap and cover your hives if you know they're going to do it. And that's it. Boy, I was long-winded.
Nah. Okay, you got a nice turnout.
Nice job, Deb.
That was last year.
Which one pops, the small hive beetle larva or I think it's the small hive beetle larva. When you squeeze it, it pops, not the other one.
Yeah, snakes on your inner cover.
She
Well,
wants
I
to
know
know if they
small
eat these.
hive bee larvae slime your honey because I ruined 6 supers of it when I missed surgery. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's
disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
disgusting.
It really is.
No, the bees don't, snakes don't eat your bees, but most of us just don't like them in our boxes.
That's why
Yeah.
I always look my lid away from me in case there's a snake in there. I don't want to see it. I found a mummified mouse one time in one of my hives. They just wrapped it up in propolis.
I've
They
had
did
a
not live-
mouse, and actually it was still alive, and we carried it 4 hours down in Mason County. And when I took I had those wrapped, and when I unwrapped them and I took the entrance reducer out, it ran out and it had hundreds of bees on it.
Yeah,
They were
the
killing
one
it.
that might have dead. They weren't coexisting with that little critter.
Yeah.
Where's Terry? We don't have a Terry.
Perry's
She
here, isn't
must
she?
have got off. She
We
was
let,
on
we
here.
let her in. Yeah.
Yeah, she
You
was.
didn't hear herself ask a question?
She was.
Yeah,
she
I'm
was-
going to redo that presentation and correct my misspellings and
That was good. I had a lot of.
redo it.
It was good. It was very informative.
Mhm.
And it
I'm
made
just
me
going to
vote.
tweak it a little.
And Debbie has gone through the European foul brood with the
Yes.
vet. I had it last year, and I just let it go and watched it and took care of it. And I probably got 50 pounds of honey off of it without medicating it. So don't panic if you see that it's kind of, bad brood or whatever. You can give her a chance, and sometimes they can come out of it, but you have to watch it so it doesn't turn into American foul brood.
And the European, that we know about it when it's in the state, right?
American.
When it,
American. We know when it's in
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah,
After
American
an
is a whole different-
investigation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
They had
European-
problems 2 years ago. They had a hive up in Pittsburgh and they had to, and it was down, I mean, Pittsburgh, like in the city. And people wanted their hives inspected and they ended up having an additional, I don't know, 500-600 hives registered because you're supposed to have them registered. And
right.
then 2 years ago, I'm in Washington County, Pennsylvania. There was a hive somewhere in downtown Washington. They won't tell you exactly where it is.
Right.
And but our inspector let us know. But she's, you know, I said, am I going to see you? She goes, you are not in a 2-mile radius. So
Yeah.
it was, but they have to stop. But for anybody else that needs the inspector to come out for anything, it's a major pain because they stop everything until they've
Yep.
inspected all of those.
They do that here. We
yeah.
had it last year or year before. I think it was year before. Up in the Panhandle, we had some American foul brood, and they had to do the 2-mile radius. So, but it was contained and dealt with. So,
Well, it's been around for like ever and ever and
Oh,
ever
yeah.
and ever and ever
Oh,
and
yeah.
ever.
that's really why, like, Cheryl bought all that equipment, and that's the only reason why you don't buy other people's equipment. And I mean, I'm not ditching you, Cheryl. I'm just saying for other
I
people.
learned the hard way. I really
I bought
did.
equipment. I bought equipment. I know what you did. I did
I
it too.
bought equipment, but he was a reputable, you got to know where your equipment comes from.
Now
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I still got a lot of good equipment that wouldn't have mattered anyway, because I got
Right.
my electric spinner, I got my hand spinner, I
Yeah,
got
stuff-
so much
stuff like
stuff
that.
was good.
I'm talking, boxes that carry the
Yeah.
American foul brood
I
spore in
burned a
them
lot. I
forever.
burned a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think you can get it out of there. So
I will say this much about American foul brood is that I didn't realize until we did the retreat, and I forget who what her name is that did the talk.
Joyce.
Yes.
Mhm.
Brought up the fact that store-bought honey is very much prevalent to having American foul brood, because they pasteurize store-bought honey, and that heat kills off all of the other spores from the other things, but it will not kill off the American foul brood, which leaves that honey open for the American foul brood to just go crazy in there. So you're basically feeding your bees American foul brood if you buy store-bought honey off the
Don't
thing.
feed your bees anybody's honey but your own. Never.
Yeah, exactly.
Never. Don't go to your neighbor and buy a gallon or a 2-gallon of honey and feed it to your bees. Feed them sugar water if you don't have
Right.
honey. But if you get honey, and like I said the other day, I have a lot of honey. I had a bucket that got a mouse in it, so that's 5 gallons of honey gone, wasted. So I will feed that to my bees when I get home. And then I looked away and overflowed my bucket. So all that honey that I cleaned up off the floor, that's honeybee honey. So, don't buy store-bought honey to feed your bees ever, and don't feed your neighbors. And pollen
Exactly.
too. You have to watch, where you get your pollen from, because if they're in an area where they have a lot of urban and people spraying, then that's going to be in your pollen, and you're going to put that in your body. So, and propolis, same thing. So the best thing to do is deal with it with your bees, or like somebody that, has their bees out on a farm that that people aren't spraying around, then that's a good place to buy your wax and your propolis and stuff like that, your pollen. So yeah, sorry I didn't jump in there, but don't feed honey if it's not yours, period.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned nosema and dysentery. do you have to clean up the inside of the hive after they get that? I mean, or do they clean that themselves?
I prefer to clean it up. I just don't like the thoughts that it's in there. Eventually they may, but
I just take a hive tool
yeah,
and scrape it if they crap on, it's just like, but if
I
it's,
just wouldn't want it in there. Yeah.
if it's a true sickness, then you could probably burn it with a torch or something.
That's what I was
Something
gonna
like
say.
that. But you could, I haven't, and I've used my boxes over and over and, clean off the front, and the rain usually washes it over, the summer, and it's not on there anymore.
And ladies, there's nothing wrong. And if you would get one of these diseases, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
It's not always something you caused, something you did, or something you didn't do. It just is and is. It just
It can-
happens.
It can be from your queen too,
Yeah.
like chalk brood. I had one that was real susceptible to chalk brood, and I had to finally end up killing her. And she was so full of it because it is a virus or a fungus, right? Something. And so I pulled those frames and put new ones in and put a new queen in there. So, you have to just use your judgment, and that's what we're here for. If you have a problem,
Just take
and
care of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Don't beat yourself up about it. It happens.
Yep, we've all been there. I know earlier when we were starting to grow, I know now because I didn't know then, but I've had a lot of hives with European foul brood because it was a damp spring, and they need dry, hot weather. And so we finally got it, and it cleared itself up. But I remember looking at that brood, and it was kind of tannish and, kind of nasty looking. And you don't want, like Debbie said, it pearly white is all you want.
I didn't realize when I had it, I didn't identify it. I didn't know it. And
Mhm.
we caught it only because Shandak just happened to be here that day and doing an
Uh-huh.
inspection. And she
Yeah.
found it and we treated it and life goes on.
Yeah. Well, I knew I had mine, and I had my inspector come, Will. And so I knew which one it was, and I kind of marked it with a little X. And so Rick came in because I had to go sell a nuke. And so he's like, well, you have, European foul brood. It's like, yep, hive number, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you knew it? And it was like, yep. And he said, were you testing me? And I was like, yep. So, but that was fun. And like I said, I pulled honey off of her. She straightened herself up, and, she started laying good. And so, you can treat and not treat. So, and nobody else in my hive or in my apiary had it. I'm not saying not to treat, but I'm just telling you, I did a test on her in that outyard, and she, healed herself. The bees healed themselves and started growing again. And, I did put some shakes in there, like we were talking today, Donna, about, helping, boost them up. And I put some nurse bees in there, and they helped. And hopefully to God, they're still there now.
We have a question from Tammy Craig. She is asking, what is the most common disease issue? Was it mites ? And what's the rarest? I would say yes, mites is our most
Number
common
one.
one. And it can deplete your bees and make them weak. And then all these other diseases, a lot of the other diseases will come in because your hive is weak because of the mites.
Yep.
The rarest I would think would be stone brood. I don't know that I've ever seen much of that.
Well, I would say the rarest for me in my head would be American foul brood.
Yeah, we've never had it in our area.
Right. Knock on wood,
Right.
wherever wood is in this place. But
I
yeah.
think that's something that's really interesting about varroa mites. When you have a crash from varroa mites, is the stronger your hive, the bigger your hive, the bigger the crash.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
And people
Yeah.
don't realize I had three, because that's was my turning point. I had 3 humongous hives. They were busting over, and all 3 of them crashed on me. And I realized that I can't, that's my biggest problem is mites.
Yeah. Well, it's a year long,
Mhm.
like, well, now that I leave mine, I take what, 9 months to prepare for me not being there for the 3
Right.
months. So, but it's constant, and it's always in your brain. If you're not ready, don't want to treat for mites, then don't get bees, because nowadays you can't hardly do that and have your beehive survive. And I had a woman for 2 years, and she didn't treat for mites. She wanted to go natural, and she came back for the 3rd year for another nuke. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm sold out, because that's all she was doing was putting them in her yard and letting them die. And it was like, I'm not selling you my wonderful bees to kill. I didn't tell her that,
Right.
but yeah,
I have a friend who doesn't treat, and she keeps on buying bees. One year, they were honey bound. This year it was the cold, and I realized that she's not going to be sustainable, and it's not worth the argument. She's going to have.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, some people don't
The
care.
math on her in the last 4 years, she's up to $800, $800 or $900 buying
Just in
bees.
bees.
It only lasts 4 months.
I did my
Wow.
big investment last year with Phyllis going, you can make 4 hives from that one nuke.
She's like, yeah, I'll be coming to you for bees. I was like, stop buying bees. You have the bees in your yard.
I've
So she's
never
like,
bought, well, knock on wood. I don't, this year I was out there today, and 6 out of 6 are flying. 3
Nice.
were at the top, but I put shims and sugar boards on them all yesterday, and then or 2 days ago, and then the wind blew the top off. Then I cleaned my garage. I found my ratchet straps today.
Good. Emily asks, do we clean equipment between tending hives? And I only do it if it's got some burr comb on the sides of it. I'll just, take that and that's it. And sometimes if it's an empty box, which that's what if you want to learn how to clean equipment, come meet me next month in the high tunnel. I've got rows of equipment that I'm going to clean, and I'm going to separate the burr or the brood comb from the honeycomb, because sometimes they get up in there and lay, then it becomes a brood comb. So I've got all that to do. But when you take that out, if you take the best hive tool to use is the one that has the curve on it like that, and it's flat at the bottom, and you take that and you just pull it over, where the frames sit, and it cleans all that. And then you do it this side, and you have, that's all propolis. So you can save that. And but that's about all I do. The bottom boards, when you come into spring, they'll be full of debris, dead bees, you name it, it's in there. If you gave them wax paper, it'll be down in the bottom, and it'll look like little furry, like a dead mouse sometimes. But it's the paper that they've chewed up. And I carry that away from my out yard, or we get a 5-gallon bucket or a tote and scrape all that in there, because I don't want any debris in my out yard because of the varmints. But does anybody else do anything different than cleaning? I mean, we don't Clorox or any of that. Bees need stuff. They'll take care of themselves if you leave them alone.
Mention what you use on your hive tools and stuff between apiaries and people's houses, your alcohol.
Well, I was going to say, ever since I went to Phyllis's, I keep a jar of alcohol on my workbench, and I stick my hive tools in there regularly now and change it up.
You can do that. I don't do that with my bees personally. I mean, if I got one sick hive, they're all going to be sick, because I know Frederick Dunn has a hive tool for every hive. And it's like, whatever. If you've got that much money to spend on, $7 to $9 per hive, just so you don't, and it was like, do you put rubber gloves on your bee gloves, or do you wash your hands between hives? you can do whatever you want. It's just when you've got 40 hives to go through, and then boom, you've got 35 down there, you're not gonna be, doing that. But I take my hives and or my tools, and I take it to the house, and I take it outside and use my pocket knife and clean off all the propolis on it because it gets almost brown. It's so much. And then I take I turn the hot water on, and I take my dish soap, and it's the natural stuff as much as I can get. It's not Dawn. And so put a dab on there, and then put it down with my fingers so it's on there, and then I take a not a Brillo pad, but the metal abrasive pads, and clean it off, and it's spotless. So that's how I clean mine. And I know I've heard people, it's like, well, you got to soak it, and and do this and this, and it's like, no, you don't. Scrape it off with a pocket knife or a kitchen knife, whatever, and then just use that metal scrubby thing, and it comes
I've
right off.
scraped mine and then I've stuck it in my smoker that was still hot.
I've done that. I've done that too. Yeah.
You gotta rinse it off when it's done, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now,
I do that.
Phyllis, all that propolis that gets collected on my hive tool, I can scrape and save. to make
Absolutely.
a tincture
There's
with.
nothing wrong with, actually, that's the better, because it usually doesn't have paint in it. So
Oh my
Yep.
gosh, because let me tell you, I've been working on my garage for the last week and sorting all my bee stuff out. And I have 3 hive tools that are just like, oh, more
Yeah, well,
propolis than I've probably
try
seen
this
in a
method
long
then.
time.
Yeah, scrape it off
Okay.
with a
Thank you.
knife
Keep it.
or another hive tool, whatever you have, just scrape it off. And you can sharpen those hive tools, but when you do, you be careful. I watched a guy on YouTube, and he's like, I shouldn't have sharpened it because he got 6 stitches. So be careful. Yep.
Oh, I've seen a cute tip today. You know how I've been the last couple of years got this big magnet in my pocket, and I
Uh-huh.
just stick my hive tool on my pocket, and it does affect your jacket because it makes it really dirty looking and sometimes make a hole. Now they're putting the magnet on the top of the long glove. So when you're done, you just slap your hive tool on your arm, and then you got your hands, you keep on going. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's
Oh,
pretty
this is
neat.
a great
Yeah. I
idea.
would probably knock it off a lot.
Well, it's
So-
embedded. They have it sewed in. It
No, I
isn't
mean the
just
tool
sticking though.
itself.
Well, yeah, I do too off my coat all the time too.
Yeah. I have a leather strap that a guy made me for $20, and he put a nice magnet on there. So, because I ruined 2 pair of my bee pants because, like Debbie
Mhm.
said, my magnet, I was pulling it off, and it just, made a hole in it. And so, but yeah, but you'll see me with my bee pants with duct tape on it and things. But I might have some better ones this year. But yeah, magnets are really good, and they're very nice to hold your hive tool.
You're giving me a great idea.
All right, I got questions.
All right,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Fire. My
Some frontier.
we know
You're gonna have to write it, Cheryl. Sorry,
lost my hives.
we can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh.
Soon as you start talking, then it freezes up. Oh, it just kicked her
Far.
totally off.
And
Oh no, there she is.
I broke them apart, and I my
Cheryl, we can't hear you.
and my
Okay. Hmm. So while she's trying to figure it out, anybody else wanna, go ahead, Donna. Write it
Do you
down,
ha-
Cheryl. Sorry.
Do you all have any suggestions on favorite hive tools?
Mm-hmm. I know my favorite. What's your all's favorite?
I
Mine's
like the J hook, the J
Yeah.
hook one, but I also like my little one just for a quick go in, open up the top. you know, the little one, but usually it's the red one with the J hook on the end, and the flat one is the most go-to. If I'm going somewhere where I think I'm going to have to do a lot of work, I have one that's got a little round knot that's kind of like a hammer head. So I may sometimes just have that with me in my bucket in case I have to put a frame back together or something. So you use different ones for different reasons.
Well, I have, and for that right there, I have the new one that came out a couple of years ago that I found, and it's both of the J hook and the one that I was telling you that has a bit. It's all in one. So, and I'll find a picture of it on Amazon and I'll put it. But it's it's a. I have a little hand, and so the neck of that is. What do you have, Kathy? You have a hive tool or no?
Well, yeah, I can get you a hive tool. You had
No,
me
that's
thinking
okay.
about this.
Yeah, but
what's this?
then it has a little neck on it where my hand fits, because the one that has the hook, it's kind of wide, and it's hard that my husband, that's one he uses all the time. But you want that. I like that hook because you can put it between the frames and then tilt it this way, and it breaks the propolis on that. And then the hook, like Kathy, like Debbie uses, which that's the one that I always have used, it helps you lift them up out of there to get a hold of them with the hook. So this is all in one.
What about frame preference? That was another question I had tonight. Any particular brand, or I know a lot of probably make their own. You probably, Phyllis, you have
No.
so many. No?
No, we buy ours because we go through so many. We buy ours through Man Lake. So
Somebody said, I was reading something about Premier. Is that a,
yeah. We have some frames from Premier. You just have to shop around and see, and that's what you're doing, is seeing where
If you go
people
to a
get it.
convention, all the different styles are there, all laid out on the table. Just pick it up, hold it, you know, see how you feel.
Well, she's
Everybody's got
talking
a
about
different.
frames.
Oh yeah, I'm still on hive tools.
Oh, it's a hook
Yeah,
like
no,
this?
Yeah, that's
is
the
this
J
the hot
hook,
tool
yeah.
you was talking about? Whoa,
Yeah,
is it?
exactly. I've got my phone. I was doing it so perfect. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is my
I
favorite.
have that one. I ordered, that was the first one I got. And then I got
Good.
another one today because I thought, I remember you all saying get several because you leave them, you lose them. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, I at least need
I've
to have
got
a
this
couple.
one.
That's what I
This one
got.
I've had for 100,000 years. You can tell it's really old. I won it in my beekeeping class. Then I have a smaller one because I thought it'd be cool to keep it in my front pocket. It's a
That
little
was cute.
small. I
Yeah.
have another one, I lost it. And then the latest one we got at Hive Life.
I don't
Yeah,
like the
that's not-
little one like Debbie was talking about. I gave mine away last year, and because
Where's my camera?
I don't wear gloves.
There you go.
if,
You got a long one, I got a short one.
and so it made my fingers go down on the frames. So think of that when you're using, even with your gloves, because I found that I killed bees with that little one.
Tammy
Which I
was asking
suffered.
me what the name of it's called, and it's called King Lake Beekeepers Polished Stainless Steel Hive Scraper.
Can you put a link in? Did you get it from Amazon or no?
Yes,
Yeah, can you just go to your and put a link on our page?
yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be
Just-
great.
Just like on the wall, like I'm making a post or whatever.
Yeah, can you see that? That's all my hive tools that I've cleaned and I found. And
They look
one
shiny.
woman posted, I have overwinter hive tools, and it was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
grow them too. Because you go out and the grass is low and you walk through your apiary. Yeah, that's
Here's the
I'm
one I
talking
got
about.
today. It's
Yep.
just a little 7.5 inch.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I thought the one on Amazon's really big. It's a little bit sharp too.
Yeah,
The edges
they
are
all
real
are
sharp.
until you use them.
Yeah.
So now
This
the
one
end
here-
of that is what I clean my
This
edges on my bee boxes. Yeah, you just
So
tilt it
that-
a little bit and pull it across there, and it'll clean that propolis off real good. Yep.
I got
Thank you,
this one.
Margaret.
Bye, Margie.
This one I got from Daydant. Is that, I know I'm probably
Daydant,
pronouncing it wrong,
The Dan,
but I got that one.
yeah.
today.
The best place I have found so far is Amazon for, it's like
Yeah.
$7.95 and $9.
I couldn't find a 7.5 inch one on there though.
Oh, okay.
And I was
Yeah.
hoping to get one that fit my hand better, but I don't know if I'll end up liking it or not. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Cheryl says, I have 2 packages and 2 nukes coming. The 4 hives I have set up frames with comb with some leftover honey, and I'm worried I'm encouraging robbing from
No,
my
read
other.
the first part. Read the-
I'll read the top. Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
Okay. Okay. I lost my hives, so broke them down and set up 4 hives. I have bees ordered. Anyway, I left the hive sitting by 1 hive left, and today I noticed my bees. Oh, sure, they'll rob you clean. Yeah. So you need to take that honey off of there and put it away if you want to use it, if you want to keep it, because they will eat it all. Should I leave them be, or should I move or cover them so they, well, you're with this nice weather too, you're just encouraging wax moths to come in, and they will lay.
Now you're locking up.
Me?
No.
Oh, so you need to take that off, and if you get that I need to always say it because this is a hot topic, but that Xterra or whatever, and it's on the women's page, and if you mix that up, it gives you 2 months. And but I would pull my honey out of there, and then I would spray that on my comb, and take any of your, if you have bee pollen in there too, take that out. So
These are
you
coming
have to
in
write it. Can't hear you.
Coming in March. Damn it.
Beginning of March or end of March? That makes a big
Yes, yes.
difference.
Bees are coming in March.
I know, I said, is it beginning of March or the end of
Oh,
March?
okay.
That makes a big difference on your equipment. Because that's, if it's the end of March, then that's a whole month that they're going to be sitting there with nothing protecting them.
Yes.
I'm looking.
One more
then-
question for you guys. How many extra boxes or frames do you feel like you need to have, like spare, like as a backup, like for growth or whatever?
Well, if you have 1 hive, that could turn into 2. If you have 1 hive and it's a double deep, just saying, then you need at least probably 3 to 4 supers per that hive. So times that by however many you have. It can make you poor real quick, can it, girls?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
empty my basement every year and then I buy more because I bring it some back in, but then I buy more to put together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we still
So-
have a question on there about what's your favorite bee suits?
Bee suit.
Yeah.
Have a jacket.
Mine has been the Dant, the vented one. I think Donna just got hers, and she
bought
might
mine
have a
last
medium for sale.
no, I'm going to keep it after I listened to you and you said try it on again to make sure.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's going to be perfect.
Okay.
It's a little
And
bit
I don't-
big, but
I use these pockets up here, but I hardly ever use these pockets down here because when you're working and if you have gloves on, they're really hard to open because that Velcro is just so tough. And so I hardly ever, so I take things with me, like to put my burr comb in, I take a bucket or whatever with me, a peanut butter jar, or peanuts jar that's empty with a great big, mouth on it. Then you can just, take it with you, hive to hive.
Use a
So-
little paint bucket myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the gloves, because that jacket has like really nice tight Velcro.
Yes, it
And
does.
you can put the thumb strap over. And I bought
Yep.
a pair of leather gloves that are women's goatskin leather at Tractor Supply that are amazing. And I tried them on with that, and I think it'll be perfect, Phyllis. Like you said,
So-
as long as there's no big gap. Or
Did you put it on and then reach out
I did.
and it
And
still
that's
stayed
why
covered?
that's why I decided not to go with a smaller size, because I'm not going to have that room. I'm afraid it'll end up pulling.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. You can do the little gloves. I mean, Ian Stepler up in Canada, he works his he's like 50-50, it looks like, but he has the farm gloves. And but I've tried those, and they get
this is
in
what they
there.
are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, good. Yeah,
But
give
we'll
it a try.
see.
Yep.
The first one that crawls up my sleeve or gets in my glove, I'll probably be switching that real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you will.
Well, you can always use duct tape, like I said. If they get on there, then make sure
They
yeah,
just
good.
fit.
Oh yeah.
And we bought the bee suits with the gloves that come with them, and they're huge. The
They are.
fingers are like that long on me.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. I buy extra small on Amazon for me. So
Well, if these don't work out, I may end up, what you said, it's nice having more than one pair anyway.
yeah, in case you
So-
lose it.
You get gooey and you just want to change in the middle because the bees are all over you.
They get hard. The propolis
Yeah.
gets on there, and like mine are like this, and then I put them on, and then the heat of my hand makes the glove warm, and then I can stretch it. So, or I get holes in the end of them. But yeah, that's what do I buy the most? Gloves and hive tools.
Can you post a link where you get yours? You said Amazon, Phyllis?
Yeah, and they're goat. I go through and some they're like $19 a pair, and if that expensive. But yeah, I've got a couple of them, and some of them are better made than others. But I deal with it. So, but I buy an extra small because I bought small and they were folding over, like you said. So
Hey, Phyllis, when I went
Yeah.
up to Bearsville to pick up my hives, they actually had a lot of different gloves there, and they let me try them on to find the right size.
Perfect.
And that actually worked well because the first pair that I got didn't fit at all.
that's the best way to do it. That's what I tried to do that at the fall conference with the Dant, and he's like, no, I didn't even think about bringing gloves. And it was like, that's the best opportunity to do it because people can try it on and see exactly what you did, Emily. And it's like, some salesman you are. So I mean, he had all kinds of other things there, but yeah, that's a great selling point to do for sure. Yep.
And Cheryl's telling you her bees are coming on the 21st.
Yeah, I already said, and it's yeah, well, to me that's a long time to leave, especially she lives down in Romney area, and they get much hotter than we do. But that's what I will do when I go home and find a dead out. I'm going to turn it backwards so I know it's a dead out, and then I will go through it, and if it has honey, then I'll probably put that away and then supply my others if they, if they're low. And then, but I'll spray that Xanthera, whatever it is. And so I'm good for 2 months, and I'll leave them out there.
Cool. A lot of good questions tonight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a hot topic. It's a scary topic, but it's very manageable for sure.
Do you guys put your own boxes together, or do you buy them already assembled?
No, we put ours together. I have 100 nukes I have to put together if you guys want to come up and do that too.
Okay. Oh, those cardboard ones? I'm
No,
getting better at wooden ones?
yeah, wooden ones.
I just
Yeah.
built a couple of wood ones. I'm not bad at it.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you guys have any suggestions on where to get those? Do you order where you order?
You know,
I'll give you two, Bearsville and Lucas Sawmill or Lucas whatever.
Lucas Mills.
Yeah, he's on our sell page on our women's. We let him in to sell because his mother, right, Debbie, is a member of our group and she's part of that business. So he can,
Right.
but Kathy has bought from him, and both of
bought from
those
him.
are West Virginia wood. They cut it in
Mhm.
West Virginia, kiln it, and they do real well.
If you can pick up your hardware, especially when it comes to woodenware, you save so much money in shipping because it weighs a lot of money.
Yeah,
Lucas Mills, his cuts were beautiful. My husband was amazed at his millwork.
nice.
He's right outside of Snowshoe.
Yeah, Durban.
Lucas
Perfect.
Mill, Mill.
Do you know? No, well, do you know our sell page, our group, our women's group sell page? Just
Maybe that's
look it
where
up.
I
Well,
just
actually,
posted-
we just renamed it.
I may have
Honey,
just posted the link for the hive in there,
okay.
if that's the
Well, with
wrong
Lucas, you
page.
call him up. But I'm telling you, he's right outside of Pocahontas. There's absolutely no service out there. So if you GPS, set
Yeah.
it before you leave your house.
That's the wrong one.
Is
don't-
it? That's
Yeah,
wrong page.
that's our sell page. Everybody makes that. And we even
Okay.
changed that name. We just changed it this week. It's Honeybee Items for Sale dash Women Beekeepers of West Virginia, because we had Women Beekeepers of West Virginia first, and it was confusing so many people. So Debbie and I got our heads together and decided to change that. So,
I'll take that off
um,
there then.
but actually, I don't see him on there now, Debbie. He
Huh?
was on there because I let him in.
It's just such a long drive for us. I know Bearsville is like over 2 hours for us. So,
Well,
And that's where our spring and fall conferences, I know you don't like the crowds and the
Right.
sickness and but that's where you're gonna make a killing on buying your stuff that you need and not have the shipping.
yeah, next year, maybe it'll be different and
Mhm.
we'll be in a different place to be able to do that. This year, not so much.
Right.
I don't understand why Lucas's isn't in here. I let him in.
He has a Facebook page if you're on Facebook also.
Yeah, but I let him post on our women's
Right.
page, our sell page.
Hey, Donna, when I
Yeah.
was at Bearsville, I was talking to the folks that own it there. He did say that that if we wanted stuff, because I'm a couple hours away too, he comes to Charleston a lot in different places, so he might be able to meet me. So it might be that if he's coming to your area
He
for
will.
a conference or something, you could meet him.
Yeah, because I think I remember them telling me when I got the Lands Hive that if we needed anything, he goes to Clarksburg a lot. So
Yeah.
that's like super close to us. So I might do that.
Well, Don, that's the
Thank
one
you,
that
Emily.
founded all that to begin with. He has a house there and a house in Morgantown. I'm sure he'll bring it to you.
Who is it?
One of the
Don
owners,
Riggs. Don Riggs, the one that founded it.
one of the partners.
He has two homes, a home down there close to where that is, and he has a home here in Morgantown.
Donna,
I'm
if you go, this is what his Facebook page looks like. Can you see that?
I just sent it to her.
Okay.
Donna, I just sent it
Oh,
to you.
thank you. I just got it, Phyllis. Thank
Yeah.
you, Kathy.
Yeah, you're welcome. But he's just a young man and trying to do a business.
some
Him and his
nice
dad or
business.
grandfather. Him and his grandfather, I think.
Yeah, he's young, and his grandfather is the one who showed me about how to catch native bees. He had made that little native bee trap. Remember I showed you a picture of it last year? And then he has it and he did millwork downstairs, and my husband, who's in construction, just loved his millwork.
Yeah. Well, that
the
means a
whole
lot when
system.
someone knows, looks at somebody else's work.
Yes. And he was
And-
looking
and
at
I'm-
it as a carpenter.
sure-
at Rank.
Yeah, I'm sure Bob and Joy's, woodwork is great too. I'm just saying, they're really not competition because they live so far apart from each other.
Mhm.
So, and If you want a beautiful drive, then that would be Lucas. It's beautiful over there, Pocahontas County. Yeah. And you can ride the train. Don't ride the train. Don't pay the money for the train.
Don't go for Cass. You don't want to ride the Cass Railroad now.
And don't eat at the restaurant in Durban. It was absolutely Rick's laughing. Yeah. Yeah. It was awful. The only restaurant they have, and they can't even do it.
When we first time we went out to Lucas Mills, there was an intersection, it takes you right to Snowshoe, and we stopped at that intersection. Little did we know, because our GPS wasn't working, that right across that little road right there was a driveway into Lucas Mills. So we had to go all the way back home and go back again. And we
Oh,
said, "Look over
gosh.
here." We're right outside of it.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, I've never been there, but I've talked to him through text and things. So, and he's my friend now on Facebook. So
Oh, well, we really liked them.
I tried to
Okay,
have his-
ladies, I let y'all in the honey cells.
The Heinz,
Good.
it's called what now?
honey items for sale.
Yeah,
Women.
um,
What is it?
honeybee is one word. Items for sale, women's beekeepers.
Yeah, that it's got the.
But it still has the
flower.
purple flower.
Yeah.
We left the
Oh,
logo.
Honeybee items for sale, beekeep. I'm joined already.
Yeah,
You're welcome,
that's-
Paula.
That's the same one. We just changed the name because we was getting a lot of confusion because it started with women beekeepers. And even
Yeah.
when I was looking to let people in and approving, sometimes I mislooked and it was letting people in the wrong
Right.
group.
Yeah, when I called Lucas Mills, I talked to the woman. She's the one who
Yeah,
handles all the phone
that's his
calls.
mother. Yeah.
The mother, yeah.
Yeah, she's very nice too. And she sent me a catalog, and that was last year, so I'm sure it's but he told me the prices.
Oh, I'm
I'm
they were
afraid to
quite-
quote them, but they
Well-
were good prices for good quality work. And what I was thinking yesterday, you guys were talking about the eco stain, well, whatever, protection. And why couldn't you, if you don't get your boxes put together for you, why couldn't you lay those slabs in there and everything get protected, like in the wood things, the fingers, and
Right.
take that apart and lay it in there, and then lay it in there and let it soak in. And to me, I mean, I might try that, because like I said, I've got those 100 nukes that I have to do, and I might soak them in because it would be better protected, and then I can always paint them later, whatever.
Right. That's what we was thinking too, but ours came already assembled. So
Uh-huh.
we
Right.
did submerge them all. Like one website we watched, he said he doesn't submerge the inside, but it's an friendly stain.
Yeah,
You can put it in
You're
your
fine.
garden.
We did. We
So
did the
I
whole thing.
completely submerged all of it, the corners and everything, and just
Yep.
left it sit for a few minutes and then turned it over and did the same
Mhm.
thing. And
Yeah.
but if I get them, unassembled, I'll do the same thing. I'll just soak it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I'll try that too. Because if you did a 5-gallon or 4-gallon bucket full,
Yes.
then you could just set them straight up, in the bucket. So
Emily said it looks like Lucas Mills sells unassembled stuff on eBay.
On
oh,
eBay?
okay,
Really?
all right. I don't know where my chat is.
Well,
There
I
it is.
try, I kind of, I like the fact I can pick them up and I don't have to pay for any shipping. eBay, I
Yeah.
probably have to pay for shipping.
Well, I know last year he would not even bring them to Elkins. So,
Hey, Barb.
good night, ladies. Good night, Barb.
Right.
So, yep. And then he might have changed. He might have, saw a need for it. But
Yeah, I definitely don't feel comfortable with how many boxes, the upper boxes or whatever I have.
supers.
Yeah, I have one deep and 2 mediums per hive, and that's all I have.
But then you have your supers.
Well, that's total. Just the deep bottom
Uh-huh.
box and then 2 mediums. Which
Okay.
those be called, are them the supers or whatever?
No, it would be their brood box as well. You could get by probably with one medium and then your other medium be a super. But you want, because if they get robust and they fill out that deep and a medium, then they're ready to pull in honey. So you put that on there, and then what are you going to do when it's full? You don't have any other, so you need to get another one. But like I told you today, that all your stuff has to be pulled out. So it's going to take away. It's going to take time, and you can get another box, and it'll have your 9 frames. Or are you doing 8 frames or 10?
8 frames, 8.
Okay, so it'll have 7 frames in it because you want them to be spaced. And so you can take the one that's full, you can take some of that and put it up, and then put your empties down here, and then they'll work on that. And then if they don't ever move up, then you just change it. Then
Right.
you put your full one on top, and then the one that you want them to pull out on the bottom. But it'll still have those, the frames of honey in there. And that's how you get them to move in. And then and you don't need to buy any more. If you're set up to spin, you can take that honey bandit like we talked about today and fume them out of there, and then take that to your house and spin it, and then put it back on. So that's the nice thing about being ready. I never have until last year. And I've been in it for a while. But yep.
You
But that's
said
just
honey
something to think
bandit,
about.
right?
I mean, it's getting
Oh yeah,
expensive.
we love it. It's
Yeah.
mine
Seen-
and
it
Kathy's
is pri-
favorite.
It is pricey, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's
But,
hard to tell what it is
for
now.
somebody your size, that spray bottle will last a long time.
Just get a small one.
Just get the small one. It'll last you a long time.
Oh,
I just
okay.
got myself-
It's like $21. It's not too
Oh,
bad.
that's about what it was like 1920 last year, so that's not
Yeah.
too bad.
That's not bad. It's
Just
like
as a couple sprays,
Yeah.
you know,
See
you
that
use
see
just
that
a little.
board right there?
Yes, uh-huh.
That's your fume board.
And you can make your own.
Now,
You
do
can
you guys
spray it.
use a drone frame? I watched something about that too, like it's a green drone frame.
For what reason? Why,
I
what
don't
was
You
it?
would
know. I
you
can't
would only
remember
use
what.
it for mic control.
For mic control, but it's very, very something you have to be very on top of.
And
Yeah,
think of it this way, that queen has to lay
Bye,
all those
Paula.
eggs. So bye, Paula. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah,
And
It was Bob Benny that had those, he was
Yeah.
putting them in his really strong colonies.
right,
Yes.
but he's a queen breeder.
Right.
See, I use
Yeah.
them too because I want to saturate my drones. And you guys only need them if you're going to use it as a mite treatment. And then if you forget that it's in there and they hatch, then you have all these mites in your
Bombed yourself.
which you can get, you can get rid of them. But it's just
Right.
for a newbie, I don't recommend
Not
them.
necessary. Okay.
I've had a green frame for years. I never use it.
Mhm.
That's why I asked what was you using it for, because that's different
You
reasons.
gotta make sure, you
And-
gotta make sure you're right on top of that to pull them out.
And what you can do, well, of course, if you had 2 deeps, then you could put a medium frame in your top box and of your deep, and then they'll attach drone brood underneath it. And then you can take that and take it off, and then it gives you wax candle or whatever. Candle wax. Yeah. So there's you can use that also, but you have to be on top of it just like you do with the green one.
Yeah, I
So you
didn't know
don't
if
have
it
to
was
go out and buy a
necessary.
green one.
Right.
I would just start with the basics your first year or 2 years, and then
Yep.
think of these outside things, because that's where
Right.
you get bombarded with so much equipment, so many
Right.
things to do that you just get so boggled. like you're going,
Overwhelmed.
"Ah!"
Yeah.
So-
Well, I seen his video and he didn't really explain that it was for somebody, you know what I mean? They don't
For a
tell you that
particular
stuff,
reason,
right?
yes.
They
Right.
just showed, they just
Right.
showed them putting it in there for a drone, and they don't really tell you what the purpose for it is.
Right.
And that's
Right.
why we're here.
I know. So
Uh-huh.
you're left
Yeah.
digging and asking questions. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's why YouTube can be good and it can be bad.
be
for
bad,
a
yeah.
newbie too, because
Especially
there's
for
so
a new
much.
beekeeper. Yeah. I think having a mentor, a good mentor, because there's some good and bad ones out there too. And doing, finding you a good mentor is the best way to do it. Not one that's going to overbearing you. Just, it's like,
Right.
and then I hate when they come to me and say, I mean, when I was learning, well, what'd you do that for? And it was like, well, that's all I knew to do. I saw it on YouTube. Well, for what when watching YouTube? And that was Wade Stipler. He was
Stillner.
him. And he was, yeah, I can't say we're recording, but anyway, he is, he had Shanda's job.
Unrecord.
I can.